We're on page Ayandala. We got the Os Tes, I think. Because I remember doing Os Ches. Maybe not, maybe we're up to Os Ches. Yeah, we're up to Os Ches. We just finished time. We're up to Os Ches. I don't remember doing Os Ches. Okay. V'im echad hifkid chemso eitzel acher. A person had chametz and he gave it as a pikadon to someone else. So now the question is the person who owns the chametz over by Yisrael by a matzah? The point being that it's in the rishus of the shomer, it's not in his rishus, so is he over or not? So he says, the Divrei HaGaonim, the Rosh and stuff, and brings these Gaonim, Mafkid Einu over, Deinu Rishuso. The Gaonim seem to say, the simple pshat on the Gaonim is that they hold that you're only over by Yisrael by Yamatzeh if the chametz happens to be on your property mamish, and since it's not on the property of the owner, it's by the shomer. So they hold the owner is not over by Yisrael by Yamatzeh because they require both ownership and being on your property. That's the simple pshat. We'll see. But the Rishonim argue with the Gaonim. The Kosfu, Kivan the Rishus Hanifchad Kanu La Mafkid Habarishuso. So this is really what the Rosh says over there, I think. And they also seem to agree that to be over by a rod has to be in your rishus. In other words, it's not enough to be the owner, but it also has to be on your property. But they say when you give something for a shomer to watch, and the shomer puts it down, so it's like that shomer is being mashal that makom, not only where he's keeping it. Let's say you give him a bag of flour, and he puts the flour down, so that place where the flour is being kept is considered like as if he was mashal that makom to the owner. So therefore it's considered in the rishus of the owner because he was given usage of that makom. So it comes out, even according to those Rishonim, they agree technically that in order to be over by Yisrael by Yamatzeh you have to be both the owner and have it in your rishus, except they're arguing it when what's in the rishus of the shomer, the Goni say it's out of your rishus, and the Roshis over there saying it is not out of your rishus because the place where it's being put is mushal to you, and it's considered like in your rishus because you were given the rights to that place.
But isn't it to the benefit of the shomer? It's a pikadon, right? I mean, isn't it to the benefit of the shomer?
What's he benefiting? Let's say a shomer is a shomer chinam. What's he
so
benefiting?
Just, okay.
I mean, if he's a shomer suffer, he's being paid to watch. But otherwise, we're talking even by a shomer chinam, so it's nothing to do with the fact that it says. So what if it's to his benefit?
It's not the benefit of the shomer.
I mean, if he's getting paid, I mean, he's making money, but I mean, doesn't have any rights to use it. We're not talking about a shayla. We're talking about he doesn't have any rights to use it. He's just doing the other guy a favor. It could be he's getting paid for it, could be not, but he's not benefiting from it.
So so you're saying that since he gets a usage, it's a certain transfer of the land.
Yeah, that's what the Rosh says. That land is that wherever the bikadon is being kept is considered the property. Since he was given the use of that place, it's enough. That's considered bershusa. It's enough to be over. But both of these shitas would hold if I own chametz and I put it in rishus harabim. I'm not over by Yamatzeh anymore. There's a question, according to those Rishonim, I'm not over by Yamatzeh, would I be Imakayim Tashbisa or not? And that's a big tumult. In other words, the whole takos of Tashbisa, you shouldn't be over by Yamatzeh. So it should be enough to take the chametz, according to these shitas, out of your rishus, to put it in rishus Rabbi, where you don't have rights to those places, so it's certainly not in your property, and you don't have rights to use that place. So you're not going to be over by Yamatzeh according to these shitas. And the question is, Ebazai, is that enough to be Makayim
without being mafkir?
Without being mafkir, yeah. If you're mafkir, it's not you don't own it, so that's the question. You're not going to be over. You have to own it for sure. But here they say to be over, you have to own it plus have it in your rishus.
Well,
that's according to the Gaonim. The
Right.
Gaonim say clearly, if you
Right.
give it as a pikadon, you're not over.
mm-hmm.
So would you be mekayim the mitzvah tashbisu by giving it to someone to be a shomer? In other words, if the whole tachlis is tashbisu, that you shouldn't be over by a by a mitzvah, you have an eitzah. Give it to a friendly, your friend, the Jew.
But the shomer would then be over.
If he has a chrayas, he'll be over. If he doesn't have
Right.
a chrayas, if he he's a shomer chinim, so that's
Right.
a shaila.
Right.
What kind of
Right,
it's
right.
a shaila. Many hold a chrayas if she is not in the chrayas. You need a shaila,
Right.
chrayas exela veda.
That's
Or
it.
even if you hold a chrayas of shia is enough to be over by Rabbi Moshe, but everybody agrees I could tell a shomer that please watch this for me, and I won't hold you responsible for anything, not even shia.
But I guess what I was wondering about
Maybe a
is
guy won't want to do that. But
I could be, could I be mekayim tashbisu by making you over and by your? In other words, what I was wondering about was, okay, so I'm not, so it's for me not to be over by your or by your matzah. Tashbisu isn't really destroying it; it's just making it that I'm not over by your matzah. What I was wondering about was that issue is that if there's an achrayus on the shomer, then the question emerges of whether I'm over by your or by matzah, because I'm not over, so it's tashbisu. But the fact is that really tashbisu by making someone else?
I never heard of that. I hear your shadow. It's very interesting. I don't remember seeing such a shadow. I mean, it might be a question of Lifnei or something like that, but you're saying it would problem, maybe it's scoop a problem even in tashbisu. I hear the shadow. I don't know anything about that.
Okay.
But I know there's a question. These shitas that hold that that as long as it's out of your shus, you're not over by Rabbi Matzeh, is that enough to be mekayim tashbisu? Because Pashup the Gemara for tashbisu, it seems to be that either ein bir chametz al sreifa or kachayim tashbisu b'chol davar, but it seems to be you have to destroy it. But there are definitely shitas of Rishonim that hold not like that. That say. If it's getting it out of your shus, so you're not over by your Rabbi Matzeh, is enough to be mekayim tashbisu.
But you would think that it means getting it out of any Jews or shus.
That's your story. I'm not arguing with you. I don't remember such a thing.
I'm raising the question, but that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Now he says, he says there's a lot of achronim that discuss this machlokus between the Gonim and the Rush. Now, he doesn't bring it, right? But there is a shita, I think it's Rabbi Yonah, that says the Farish not like both of these shitas. He says if you give a pikadon to a Jew, even if it's not in your rishus, you still, as long as you're the bailim, he says there's no inyan of it. Rishus doesn't mean your property. It's rishus means under your control. For example, the Gemara says that if Reuven steals from Shimon, and there was no Yish and no Kinyanim, and all Reuven has is a Kinyan Geneva, so the Gemara says Shimon, even though it still belongs to Shimon, he can't be Makdashit because it's Eino Bershuso. And the Ganav can't be Makdashit because it's not Shalo. So but over there, Eino Bershuso means not that it's not in his property, because you could, if you have something in Rabbah, you could be makdashit. Eino b'shusa means either because the other one has a kinyan geneva is considered eino b'shusa, or it means that it's not under your control.
Right.
But a pikadon, if I give someone a pikadon, I have the kavach, even though it's not by my house, I could be makdashit. It's not called that kind of eino b'shusa, right? So Rabbi Yonah says, so by chametz also, if you give it a pikadon, it's considered yours, and it's considered Bershusa. Bershusa means under your control, and there's no halacha that it has to be on your property. So that's a third sheet that the Minchas Chinuch isn't bringing down. And I think the Rabbeinu Yonah sheet is the most common one. Does he bring it down? He doesn't bring it down here. Okay, but I think the Rabbeinu Yonah sheet is the most accepted one, but he just brings down the Gon and the Gonim and the Rush. Like so he says, Ach begavna de lo hishil beso. He says, but what would be if you give it to a shomer and the shomer took it, but he didn't give you the rights to the makom, right? Kagon, and he gives an example. I'm not familiar with this example. He says Kagon to hishkin eitzel chavero. In other words, if I gave you a mashkin, that if I don't pay in a certain time, you could keep the mashkin. He says in such a case, the tofas b'shvil atzmo, that the guy has a right to take it as payment because take a mashkin. He says then for some reason he's saying we don't say he's mashkin you the makom because he's taking it because he wants to be able to be tofas. So then over amavkim min Torah. Then everybody would agree, even the Rosh would agree you're not over, because he's only over. He says you're over because when you give it to the person as a bikadon, the person is mashri l'makom. But in the case where he's not mashri l'makom, then you're not going to be over in Torah. And then he says, "But then a malva lamashkin." He says in the rules of malva lamashkin, ein arachaim siman taf me'al. There's a different whole sugya. Let's say a Jew loans a guy money, and the guy gives the Jew a mashkin, and the mashkin happens to be chametz, and the guy says, let's say the loan took place November 1st, and the guy said it was 30-day loan, and the guy says, if I don't pay you by December 1st, this mashkin is yours. So the Gemara says, if he said mei achshav, so then it's a problem, because it turns out that if the Jew doesn't pay, and by December, the guy doesn't pay by December 31st, it's going to be the Jews that from the time that he gave it to him, and if Pesach was in that time, he's going to be over by Rabbi Matzah and Mafreya. If he didn't say Me'ashav, then he ends up owning the mashkin, only from the non-payment, which could be after Pesach. But those are the rules, so I don't know what he's referring to. He's just telling you, I don't think it has anything to do with what he said before. He's just going through the different cases of Pikadon, and he says mashkin is the rules, and look up the sugya in Arachayim Simatafnet Malach, V'im Arich, and if I would go into be marich on all these halachas, Sarach Hebrew Miyuchad, I'd have to write a special sefer just on these halachas, which he says many times that he can't be marich because it's such a complicated and difficult sugya, would require a whole chibur.
If he did not say me'achshav, he wouldn't be over by Yerah. Like with the goy's comments on the line. You don't.
Well, then it also depends if he has achrayas or doesn't have achrayas.
Well, I'm wondering, even if he doesn't have achrayas, like if it's destroyed, the point is, if he's holding it as guarantee on the loan,
right, then
he'll want to protect it. In other words, he may not have a price. If it's destroyed, then he could say to the guy, maybe they have agreement. If it's destroyed, then I'm not.
So that's a sugya of rots of the kiyumo.
Right. That's what I'm
wondering. So I'll not focus if rots of the kiyumo is up or by comments or not. You have to look in the Shulchan Aruch.
So that's the issue there.
It works in reverse too. Let's say I was talking about where he loaned the guy money. He took a mashkin from the guy. Mm-hmm. Right? What if the guy loaned the Jew money and took the Jew's chametz as a mashkin? Mm-hmm. Right. So then the Shulchan Aruch says if the Jew said, if I don't pay in a certain time, this is yours, me'achshav. Then it turned out if the Jew didn't pay, it was the guys during the time of Pesach. Right. If he didn't say me'achshav, it was the Jews during the time of Pesach, and it's like the Jew had a pikadon by the guy. And you're saying there's an Indian rots of Bikimel, so I don't know if the Shulchan Aruch discusses that. Probably they do, because I know there's a whole shaila of rots of Bikimel by chametz of rots of Bikimel zesser or not. Yeah, in essence, by those halachas, there's a din of rots b'kiyuma, but I think that some Achronim say it applies to chametz too. But I'm not familiar enough to talk about it, so I'd rather not talk about what I don't know anything about. Okay.
Yeah, because when you think about the other things that we're talking about in terms of ownership, when we're talking about the other things about ownership, if you're saying like any type of ownership is a union by your own method, like rots b'kiyuma is like really, it's also a weak type of.
And I think even if your rots b'kiyum is usher, I think it's only an issue derabbanan. I don't think rots b'kiyum was the rest of the issue. Even the ones who say rots b'kiyum is usher, I think it's only a derabbanan to get usher. but I'm really not sure about it.
Okay.
Okay, Oz Tets. V'ayin Choshem Ishmet Simen Shin Mem Vav Sik Yudches V'nos Kelim Halokeach Behemel L'Shloshim Yom. You buy an animal for 30 days, right? Yesh Sovrim. So in those 30 days you own it, but they also say you're also Shamachinam because it's going to have to go back after 30 days. But the very fact you say you're buying it for 30 days, so you're a shomer on it to make sure that you're not poshea, because you have to see that it's going to go back after 30 days. And yesh sovrim dafilu shomer chinam havi. You're lo havi. You're not a shomer chinam. You bought it and it's yours 30 days. And upater afilu mipshia. And even if you're poshea, if you're a shomer, you're chayav mshia. But if you're not a shomer, as long as you weren't directly masik, you're not responsible, and it's yours. So there's such a machlokas. Vayim be'Even Ezer's sen pei hesivav b'kol makom. He says, so that's a stam. It has nothing to do with chometz and peis. Stam, if a person buys a behemoth for 30 days, if he's a shomer chinim on those 30 days, it's a machlokas. So he says, b'kol makom b'kona chometz l'zman. If you buy chometz for, let's say, for 30 days, al kol panim yesh lo kinyan peris. Everybody agrees it's certainly no worse than a kinyan peris because you have a right to use it for those 30 days, according to everyone. V'havi matzah b'yado, and therefore it's considered matzah b'yado. V'chai v'bayirah k'mosh kasafti l'mayla. Remember, you said this and we said this. We see that the ownership of chametz is different than the ownership of everything else. And the raya is because the Gemara is marba that if you have chametz as a pikadon by you, and you are achroi for it, you're over. So that was a source for different achronim to say chidushim, that once you see the Bible's required for chametz is different. For example, an esrog, when we say you need lachem, the fact that someone loans it to you an esrog and you're achroi, it's not lachem. It's only in by chametz also it wouldn't be called shalcha, except the Gemara has a special reboot to be marber that even if you don't own it, if you have achrayas on something, you're over by a raw. So there they saw that the type of ownership by chametz is different from the whole Torah. And where other things, in other cases, it wouldn't be considered lachem, by chametz is considered shulcha, like achrayas. So that was one of the Minchas Chinuch, and we had this a couple of times. That different there. So he also said that even if he was mechadish, but it was a svarah to him that even if your whole kinyan peris is not like a kinyan aguf, and certainly a kinyan peris is not good enough by a lulav and esrog to be considered lachem, or if you say by matzah you need lachem. But he said over there that could be that by chametz a kinyan peris is enough. It's no worse. He said it's better than just being achrayas for something.
Right.
And you were machalik, if you remember, that could be achrayas there. You're achrayas on the goof of the chametz, and maybe achrayas is worse than kinyan peris. Just the usage thing. That's what you were. Or I was machalik. I don't remember. No, but the Minchas Chinuch said beferish.
Because I remember that the achrayas is on the goof. You're machalik.
No, I remember we discussed that. Yeah. But anyway, but for sure the Minchas Chinuch said that he held this as far that kinyan peris is a bigger ownership than achrayas. Right. So therefore, here he's saying also that certainly if you buy something for 30 days, even if it's not considered lachem, but it's certainly a kinyan peros, and the kinyan peros is enough to be over by your matzah.
That's what I was saying with rotza b'kiyuma. I mean, it just seems like a rotza b'kiyuma. Like you really want it to be around. I mean, that's.
Yeah, but that's just you want it to be around, but it's not. Who says that's bioless?
It's not really. Yeah. Okay. But once you're extending it, once you're saying it's not as good in biolus, then
the question is how far do you extend it?
Right.
I don't know. You see, I mean, that very fact, gufa by achrayas, there was a machlokas, what amount of achrayas you have to have. You don't extend it. Some say only geneva aveda, not achrayas of shia. Some say even achrayas of shia. And I told you, some people hold, even if it's not achrayas, but even if you are, for example, the one case of the Gemara was that Goyish or troops came into towns and they used to leave their chametz by the people, and they certainly weren't shomrim. They didn't have any din of being achroi, but they knew if they didn't hold it for the soldiers, the soldiers would hold them responsible. So even though it wasn't a technical achrayus, but it was a mitzias of achrayus, so the Gemara said that they're going to be, says that they're going to be over.
That sounds like Rosa B'Kiyuma. I mean, like
yeah, but it's different. It's there, but there was.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like because there's there's a consequence. To it.
So that's what I'm telling you. So you're just extending a little bit more than that, but I don't know. So now he says. So this is in, I don't know what you call those things, but this is in the old Minchas Chinuch. This was in the back, in the Kometz Mincha, and they put it in the new ones. They put it in front. But what do you call those brackets? I don't know. They're not called. I don't know. Now let's say a person before Pesach goes and he sells his chametz, but he sells his chametz for a particular time. Let's say he sells his chametz for 30 days. So it's 5 days before Pesach, and he goes to someone. He says, "I'm going to sell you my chametz for 30 days." So what's the halachah of a mocher chametz zman? Hinei l'shitas harambam perichov gilum mechira halacha vav v'hamocher l'zman. If you sell someone to zman, the Rambam is talking about. Let's say I sell you my field for 30 days. So the Rambam says, in those 30 days, the purchaser owns the field, and he could even do whatever he wants to the field. He could make holes. He could do whatever. He could treat it as his own field. Yochol halokeach livnos, he could build on the field, belaros, and destroy it. V'chashav kishalo adazman, it's completely his, and for those 30 days, if he said, I'm selling you this field for 30 days. So we have all the ownership rights. So Hachinami says it should come out according to the Rambam, Ein HaMocher over. So if the Mocher sells his chametz for someone for 30 days, and the other person has the right to do whatever he wants. He could eat it up. He could destroy it. So he says the mocher doesn't have any right, even though after 30 days, if it's still around, he's going to get it back. Right? But during those 30 days, he says the purchaser has the full rights to it and can actually destroy it. So his svarish would be that he's not over the mocher. It's not his during that time. Ukamosha Kasav, and he says that's what the Ksos says. According to the Rambam, Kamosha Kasav Ksos Akoshin Siman Reish Mem Aleph. Amnam Lashitas the Ri in Bava Metzia Huva B'Chosh Mishpat Siman Shin Mem Vav Sif Yud Ches the Hamocher Behema L'Shloshim Yom. He holds if someone sells his behema for 30 days, Havli Halokeach Shomer. The Lokeach is not allowed to destroy it. He's considered, he can use it for 30 days, but he's like a shomer that he has to make sure that it's going to be around after the 30 days to give back to the owner. Al Korka, he says, Sphirale, da Mechira Lazman Loy Mechira. So obviously the reed doesn't hold us up to full-fledged Mechira. The Kamosha Kasav, he says, and I'm not making this up. He says, the Ksos says that's what the re argues the Rambam. The Kamosha Kasav Ksos Koshin Sham. In Kain, Hachinami. So he says if a person would sell his chametz for 30 days, he would still, the mocher he retains his ownership, and the mocher would be over. Right? He doesn't go, that's what about according to the shittas, that you have to be in your property here, it's not in his property, so he does talking about, because since he's a shomer and he showed his makom, you have to go through that other thing. But he's now discussing as far as ownership. So he's saying the Rambam holds a temporary ownership is considered a full-fledged ownership, and you have a right to do it. You have a right to even destroy it. Right? So therefore, he says the mocher who sold it gave up his ownership, even though he's going to get it back 30 days later. He says therefore. So he's saying that's a machokas. How to treat a mechira bizman is a machokas between the Rambam and the Ri.
According to the Rambam, what happens is if the guy does destroy it, almost totally destroys it.
Not responsible at all. He has every right to do it.
But the previous owner, it's almost like you get back whatever you own, and there's nothing to own, then you just don't own it anymore.
Right. The Yeshlit Moa now, he says, the Masha Kazav Magad Avram and Simon Tafan Ches Hitkan Hey, Kabe Matana Manas Bahakser, and everybody holds we pass Matana Mahasler is a good Matana. The Amar, if he didn't say Alma Nas Bahakser, if he didn't make a Tnai, and he just said a taxi regularly, he said, and give it back to me afterwards. He didn't say Alma Nas with a Tnai. the Kuli Alma Mahani. So in other words, he's saying that even if some people, in other words, he's saying that if you just give a matana and you'll say afterwards, give it back to me without tanai, which is the chara kinyan is mine, and he says that's good. The ayin sham b'chok Yaakov sivka and yud zayin shehiksham avur b'yordei simin shenhei the amar v'taxi reili garam yalmanas lahakser. It's not. It's worse than a matana manas lahakser. The teretz b'dagmar v'avasham the kabbanas Magen Avraham shenasa matana alzman katsu. He says the Magen Avraham was talking about when he said almanas taxirei, I mean that he said a certain amount. You could have it for a certain amount of time, and after that time I'll get it. Right? So that would be like the Rambam, right? But who's Tamoa, the halachik? He says, how could the Magen Avraham say that's pashut? Because the way he's learning, that's Gufa Machokas Rambam and the Re. When you give us man katsu, and you say it's going to come back to me afterwards, right? So he says, Tamoa, the halachik says, Ria now, Kehai Gavna Chasha Shom Oker, over by Ra. The Garim Matana Manas Laxer, Dain Iraq Mishum Chumr the Chametz. In other words, if I have Chametz and I give it to someone else, the Matana Manas Laxer, so Matana Manas Laxer, it's really, I'm not going to be over because I gave it to someone, it's his. Just it was a Tanai Al Manas Laxer, right? So it's a Chumra that don't rely on Matana Manas Laxer mid Rabbanim. But if he gave it to a Zman and he said Taxireli after the Zman, so then he says, how could the Dogma of Rava say the Magen Avraham? Well, that's okay. The that's a machokas totally, like he said, between the Rambam and the Re. The Tzarachinyan. But that's a Rambam Yeshlomer the Bahani Mochel. But he says, according to the Rambam, it could be that the Magen Avraham would be correct if you gave your chametz away for his man, even though say you said I'll get it back afterwards, right? But still, according to the Rambam, the person has a right to do whatever he wants, and therefore it would be a good in the scene, and you wouldn't be over by Ra and Baal Yamatzli. So I don't know if the machlokas and the Rambam and the Re is a machlokas in fact, or it's in a meaning, or is it a machlokas in the metzias? In other words, it could be the Rambam holds that when you give him a tunnel man, that's what you mean, that it's yours for this man, you could do whatever you want, and if it's around after in 30 days, I'll get it back. And could be the Rehold is understood that when he says, I'm giving it to his man, it's understood that he doesn't mean you could do whatever you want. So it could be it's just a machlokas in what the intention is. But let's say he would speak out beferish. I'm giving this to you for Zman, and I'll give you the right to do whatever you want. And in case it's around, after 30 days, you give it to me. Would the Re still say he can't do it? In other words, is the machlokas, the Rambam and the Re, machlokas in understanding what the people mean?
Right.
Right? The Rambam says it just means you could do it, and if it's around, I'll take it back. Or is and the Re holds that's not what he meant. If he said Almanas Laxer, he meant that you could use it, but I want it back after 30 days, and I don't want you to do anything to it. So it's just a machlokas in intention. Or is it a machlokas in metzias? What's the din of the kinyan man, where even the guy has the right to destroy it, right? But if it's around, it goes back. Does the Re argue on what would the Re hold in that case? I don't know. It's no geya because it's a very big shaila. And this is where the whole kinyan, what the Ksel speaks about, the whole idea of a kinyan man is because, let's say, by an esrog, by the dollar minim, you need lachem. Right? So everybody agrees you would say that at least the first day with a shog, you need lachem. It says the captain lachem. So if I buy an esrog with zman, let's say I buy an esrog for 10 days or whatever it is for the right. And can I be yotzi with it or not? And the point is, I bought it for 10 days, and after 10 days it has to go back. So the way the Minchas Chinuch is learning, according to the Rambam, my kinyan zman is a proper kinyan, and I have a right to do whatever I want to do with that esrog, and that makes it mine. So it should be lachem. And according to the Re, the way he understands it, it's not lachem, because you don't have a full ownership, because you have to, you can't destroy it. You have to be able to give it back, right? But according to the way he understands it, according to the Re, if you would have the right, let's say that you made up that if I want to destroy it, I could, except if I don't destroy it, I have to give it back. Then the Re would agree to the Rambam. If you have the right to destroy it, right? You would. It would be yours. The only thing is the Re holds you don't have a right to destroy it. Go ahead.
Because when you try to think with Lulav and Esrog, Matan Masa Hafzer works by Lulav and Esrog.
Right.
So how does that work? If there has to be a true.
Yeah, because most people learn the Matana Nasa Hafzer is not a Kenyan Isman. Matana Nasa Hafzer means I give you Matana forever.
Right.
Almanas Hafzer means Almanas that you're making it back to me.
Right.
In other words, it's not coming back to me automatically. Your Kenyan in it is La'olam, and there was a Tanai made that you have to be making it back, but it doesn't go back to me automatically. You have to be making it back. The Kenyan Isman is I gave it to you.
So that's what. So why is it that Matan Masa Hafzer doesn't work here?
By Chametz, he said it's only a Chamed Rabbanan, the Ramachmer, but really Minot Torah would work.
And why would Zerulu would
He's saying it's better. So he's asking, that's what the medical screener is asking, why is
Zerulu better?
Right, so according to the Rambam, it's better because by Matan Manas L'Hakzer, you're not allowed to destroy it. There's a Tanai that you have to be able to give it back. And here, according by a Kinyan Zman, Masla Haxer, according to Ram, you're allowed to destroy it when you have it.
So it turns out that Sansir Lahu makes it a Kinyan Zman.
Right.
I guess that's what's getting me, is by Lulav and Esrog, Masla Haxer is better than a Kinyan Zman. But by here, it turns out Kinyan Zman is better than Masla.
Because he has the right to.
It's just a Masla Haxer.
See, the question is.
Yeah.
So there's a famous Rishon, Rabbi Vigdor, they bring it down, Victor Katz, the Rush brings it down, who says that a Kinyan Zman is good by an esrog. Right? So if I buy an esrog for 30 days, it's good enough for Lulav and esrog. Now, so the Rush says it's not. You need a real Kinyan, and Matan Maser is not a Kinyan Zman, because that's a Kinyan Leolam, and you have to be making it back. Could be the Rigdor Hakon holds that you don't have to be making it back. Could be he holds that Matan Masachos just means tonight to give it back, but not that you have to be making it back. Maybe he holds every Matan Masach is only Kenyan Zman. I don't know what he holds. But there's a Gemara like this. The Gemara that says if let's say the first day of Sukkot, if you have a lulav and esrog, don't give it to your child to first. Right? Because you can be making it to a cotton, and he can't be making it back. So you have to have in mind that you're not being making it to him. Don't be making it to your cotton, because then he can't be making it back. In other words, if you use it first, then it's not a problem. Except maybe the second day will be a problem because he can't be making it back. If you hold, you need to own it the second day also. But let's say in Eretz Yisrael where you don't have to own it the second day. So it says you don't mark it to a cotton unless still you use it, because if you don't use it yet, he can't be making it to you back. So I don't know if it was the Rush, I don't remember, I'm not in the Sikha who asked, but they asked the Kasha if a Kinyan Lizman is good. So why can't you be making it to the cotton for an hour or 20 minutes? And then it'll be, and you hold the Kinyan Lizman is good, so then it'll be the cottons for that time, and he'll shake it and use it, and then and you only gave it to him only were marked it to him for 20 minutes, and after the 20 minutes you get it back. And what's the problem? Why does the Gemara say don't be marking it to him? In other words, if you're not being marking it to him, you have a problem. He can't be yotze because they're holding the kan house. Also has to come to be yotze, right? He gave the thing that we're talking about, right? So they ask, so what's the problem? Why can't you be maked to me? If a Kinyan Lizman is good, be maked to him Lizman.
We're obviously, so Ravigor said the Gemara didn't mean a Kinyan Lizman.
So yeah, but still the Gemara should have given that eitzah.
Right. Right.
Because the passage where it says don't be makna and make sure you use it first and then be makna. So why don't they go first? So that's where they bring a raya that a kinyan zman isn't good by lulav and esrog. You see, a kinyan zman is not called lachem. And others say no, the Gemara could have given that eitzah, didn't give that eitzah because normally you don't think of giving the makna zman. It's not the normal thing, but it could be a kinyan zman is an eitzah. Okay, so but it gets very, very nogaya. When I looked, I don't remember, I'm out of the figure, but it was very much nogaya. The concept of what the people, the mocher and the lokayach, have in mind. I mean, the question is a question of, according to the Rambam, when you make a kinyan zman, you have in mind that you're giving it to him outright for that zman, and he could use it and destroy it, and that's your intention. It's just that all you mean is, if it's still around afterwards, I want it back after the zman, but it doesn't have to be around. And could be the he's not arguing if that's what you meant, and that would be good. He's just saying that normally when a person says, I want it back afterwards, he means you could use it, and you don't have the right to destroy it.
But for the Ri, there's no solution, right? He just is going to be having his chametz and not destroyed.
Right.
That's the problem. Yeah.
Unless what according to the Ri, if the guy would actually say, here's my chametz and I give you the right to destroy it, but if it's going to be around after Pesach, I give it back. And it could be the Ri would agree if he gave him the right to destroy it if he wants to.
But for the guy himself, he can't destroy it. He's going to have chametz over Pesach, I'm saying.
The guy himself, yeah, well, that's okay. But the question is, you would give it to a goyer, let's say. Okay. Anyway, that's his discussion of the kinyan zman.
I really would have to go, because the chilek, this chilek in terms of kinyan zman or kinyan maslahachzer, you have it throughout. Lachem is stronger by lulav and esrog. And here it's turning around by this, like it seems like it's too really.
It's really nogaya, where the main sugya where it's nogaya is how to learn a Gemara. Like the Gemara says, "Bizman the yovel was noig." So if you sold the field, right, you knew it was going back. Let's say it's 10 years before yovel, it's going to come back a yovel.
Right.
So first of all, there's a question: how does that work? When you sell a 10 years, are you selling a olam? And Yovel is Mavkir your kinyan, or if you know Yovel is coming up, you never sold it long. You had in mind to sell it only for 10 years, right? Because the people knew when Yovel was knowing, so maybe before the first Yovel they weren't aware of what's happening. So could be then it was a kinyan Olam and Yovel was Mavkir. Even then it's a Shabbat, but certainly after the first Yovel, where people were accustomed to Yovel, they were selling it to the Zman of Yovel. Now what's the Shaila? When you sell your field and Yovel is Noeg, the Gemara says the purchaser only has a kinyan Paris. Whereas that's the case where the Gemara says a kinyan Paris is a kinyan Aguf, or not a kinyan Aguf. So from there you see a kinyan Zman is only a kinyan Paris. But it's not so pushed, because what about in the Zman Yovel Noeg, the person who bought the field 10 years before Yovel? Is he allowed to make holes in the field and ruin the field too?
I remember we discussed it on Tuesday nights because we just did Yovel on Tuesday nights, right?
Okay. So that's a whole big shot, so big Yerushalmi. So that's Nogaya, this whole Rambam and the Sri, what the rights of a kinyan zman is, because l'chora Yovel is a kinyan zman, and l'chora Yovel. And I think in the Yerushalmi, I'm guessing in this. That's why I hate these things, because I say things and then I'm just trying to say from memory, and I'm just guessing. So I want you to know that I'm guessing. But I think it's a Yerushalmi that has a machlokas if he's allowed to be thing. So.
Right. It forces people to have to go learn. I mean, the fact is.
Or forces persons to go learn, but. It also forced me to make sure I know what I'm talking about. feel guilty when I say things that I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's a Rishama that makes a machlokas. It's tali how you learn Kinyan Paris, Kinyan Gilk, but the more calls it a Kinyan Paris. So why is it a Kinyan Paris?
But you can really understand the question between the Rambam and the Ri. By Yovel, that's a given, because Yovel works in this way. You can't have like, but you're right, in the Ri, you can have Kavana that I can give you the right to destroy it, but could a person, these makna a field, say, and you can do whatever you want in the field, because Yovel comes about, and it's not just a din in him, it's a din in his Yorshim as well. So it might be even more limited by Yovel.
But first you have to find out if the person during Yovel is allowed to make holes in the field and ruin the field. You have to first say. It's the main sugya that it's nagaya besides the Yovel is there's a whole sugya in the end of the last year when the chasai lach v'acharecha on the pony, where a guy says, I'm giving you the chasim, and after you're finished, when I wanted to go to pony.
Right.
It's a whole sugya in the Gemara how that works. What does acharecha with pony mean? Does it mean you have to be makna to plony, or it means automatically after you're finished with it should go to plony? And is that a kinyan aguf? Is that a kinyan paris? So you have to go through that sugya, which I once did part of it, but I don't remember exactly. Okay. Now he says, V'zayesh the yashev masha kotzav Rambam zab perak zayin mishayla halacha aleph. The Rambam says, Hamafked etzel chaveru peros. He gave a shomer to watch his peros. Im chasru yoser michdei chesronen. If the shomer sees that they're let's say there's normal spoilage over time, but they're spoiling more than the normal rate, right? So they're spoiling. So what does the shomer do? I mean, and if it's normal spoilage, so the guy gave it to him to watch for 30 days. So if it's normal spoilage for 30 days, he's not going to do anything about it. Well, let's say he sees there that's more than normal yosmer isronon. So the then is he should sell it, because he should understand that Mafkid probably wants him to sell it. He doesn't want to come back and just get rotten peros back. So what does he do? He's mochen the bezkin. He sells it, but we don't really trust him to do a good job of selling it. So he goes to the bezdin, and he's selling it under the supervision of the bezdin. V'chein katsa ba'alacha beis hamafkid peros v'herkivu. The first shot, I think, is chasr yoser medech yisrael, means the value is going down more than normal. The second shot, they're spoiling. It's also the same thing, more from the bezdin. V'halacha gimel katsa hamafkid chametz etzel chavero. V'higia Pesach. So now, and Pesach comes, and if per shomer has his chametz, what is he supposed to do about it? Lo yigia boah, he shouldn't sell it. To wait to the last possible minute, which is the last possible minute at Shah Chamishis, because Shah Chamishis is a sasrati, but you're still allowed to have an oil, you could sell it. You can ve'elach yotze, after Shah Chamishis, he says yotze mokro, don't wait till the 6th hour or tasser manoah. So in the 5th hour, he should go in, sell it b'shuk l'shaitu, and he's going to explain what the word l'shaitu means. L'shaitu means at that time, or what does the Ram mean? He's going to try to explain it. The chenu b'shulchan aruch shemish v'simen reish tzadik beis sif yud zayin. The kasha. So there, when he's selling the guy's chametz, because the point is, obviously the owner doesn't want you to keep the chametz, it's going to become usher, right? So he says, why doesn't so his kasha is lama lo bir gam chametz should tzarach l'mok lebezin kamil peres or kiva. The other cases where the shomer has to sell it and he's doing it for the benefit of the owner, so he shouldn't lose out. Right, so he says he should sell it in Bezdin. Yeah, when it comes for the chametz, the idea of the chametz also, he's doing it for the benefit of the owner, that this chametz shouldn't become usher, right? So why doesn't he say that he should sell it in Bezdin? He says, "Kasha lama lo bir gam chametz should sarach lamok Bezdin k'mo peres v'herkivu u'yushami psachim perakalav halachadalam avor lahadja." He says, when that case is brought down in the Yisham, it says clearly that sarach limkor bebezdin. I am betos b'v'siyad daflan days and monalti ramasko bezdin. I don't know what Tosa says, but that's his kasha. But the Rambam doesn't say bezdin. In the first 2 cases, he said mocho bebezdin. So both in this case of chametz is also the shomer's purpose for selling it is because it's understood that the owner would want him to sell it, that it shouldn't get ruined.
Normally at the 5th hour, that would be the least. That would be it would be commercially an awful time to sell at the 5th hour because the
no one's going to buy it except the guy maybe.
So, yeah, they're going and they know they can get it cheaper there. So it's a little bit.
Yeah, but I guess he has to wait till the 5th hour because maybe the owner will show up.
Yeah, but if it seems to imply that there's another issue going on. The minute he says that, if you're concerned about it rotting and stuff like that, he says Marco Bezdin, means well you got to try and protect the value for the person. But if you're concerned about protecting the value for the person here, you should not wait till the 5th hour. It's almost like it's spoiling anyways because. So there seems already inherent.
I hear your point. Okay, but he's asking why not in Bezdin? Okay, nearly the Ram L'Shita, so the Sfir Le Mechirul Zman Mahani, Kmoshe Ben Eliel, like that. He said the Ram L'Shita is he could have a full-fledged Mechirul Zman. Im Kain Gam B'Chametz, so he says by Chametz, Kivin She'efshel Mochol Zman, the Shomer who wants to save it from becoming Nasser is going to sell it. But he could make a temporary sale. He could sell it for, let's say, 10 days. So, Osir lo limkor lechalutin. He can't sell it outright. Right? He's responsible to get it back to the owner. And if anything, it's no worse than an aveda. He has to protect the owner's rights to it. The shembelo yochleno hagoy. So if he sells it to so let's say he sells it, he's not going to sell it to a Jew, obviously, but he could sell it to a goy for 10 days, and maybe the Jew won't eat it. In other words, even though according to the goy, if you buy it for 10 days, you have a right to eat it, but maybe he won't eat it. And then he'll be able to give it back to the owner after Pesach. That's where I was telling you. The kivin she'enu mocher rak l'zman, the karva davar shagoy yachslo akra Pesach. I don't know why it's so karva davar, but that's what we do. We sell it to goyim and they get it back after Pesach. We make all kinds of shtick to make sure he gets it back after Pesach. He says ein tzarach l'mocher l'bezin. He says the chilik between the 3 cases is in the case of chametz, he's not making a mechira outright sale. He's only making a mechira l'zman. And there he doesn't have to sell. He's only making a mechira l'zman. He doesn't have to sell it in Bezdin. But when in the first 2 cases where it's spoiling, he's making a mechira, an outright mechira, and there you need to do it in Bezdin. Kain ner li. Umasha katsa Rambam yotze umoko b'shuk l'shaito. What is it? Because of what we had a problem. What does the word l'shaito means? Tables l'shaito ain't a muvanis. What does it mean? Well, the female shekasav no asi shaper. The ratzon lomar the mochro l'zman. The shaiti means you sell a temporary sale. The yagad alavraya, and he said, I'll bring you right. Don't think it's such a big dochak to say the shaito means l'zman, because I'll show you another case. Shekasa perek yirches mimal develo balachadalad haosa sadea potegi. Potegi means that if you have a right to collect from this field. If I owe you, you could. This field, not stam, you could any issue, but I have a right to give you what you want. But I set aside this field for payment. Umachra, and then a person who made this field and opposing someone, he sold to someone else. I raised him a chur. It's a good sale. And the Ram said the medvar morim shemachra l'shaita. So they use the same word, the mechura l'shaita. Avamachra memker olam ain't a mechura. So you see that the mechura l'shaita means a temporary sale. Hared l'shaita haina mechura l'zman. So here also he's saying by chametz he said that the shomer sells it. The shaita he says he means a mechira l'zman. Because this ha'ara said I heard this ha'ara. Why doesn't the Rambam say bezin by the case of chametz? L'fi meshkasav no asi shaper. What time?